Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good evening. Welcome to being here wherever you are on this complex and amazing planet of ours.
Yes,
I'm Ariel.
I'm Shia.
Today's theme, listening. And in particular, listening, a full-time occupation. Because you can either be listening with half an ear or you can be fully listening. You can be occupied with listening or preoccupied with something else. And we're going to play around with that today. So probably good to talk a little more about listening to begin with.
Well, we've been so conditioned to multitask as if multitasking is better than unitasking, one thing at a time. My experience is that you can only do one thing at a time. Now, you can have a lot of balls in the air, juggling, uh, but you can only touch one at a time. So those things that you have as projects that keep you engaged in the future and the past, you can allow those to be, but you can also engage in listening to whoever is speaking as though that's your occupation, not to try to get onto something else, but to actually hear what another person is saying from their point of view. Now, why is this important? Well, it's not. You know, you don't have to listen, but there's some benefits, benefits,
Mm-hmm.
you
Like
know,
friends with benefits.
like friends with
First of all,
benefits.
you'll be friendly.
Yeah, right. There are some benefits to listening. One, it will inadvertently, you'll be pulled into the current moment of your life if you're actually listening. Actual listening requires you to not be judging what you're hearing, not comparing it to what you already know, not thinking you know better, not disagreeing or agreeing, but hearing another's point of view, period. Not to get somewhere, but just to hear it. Now, you can pass it through what you already know, and you'll be thinking about what's being said. Or you can just allow it to come in and hear what another person is saying. Now, here's the interesting thing. From that person's point of view, they cannot be wrong. I know we live in a world that's set up in right and wrong, good and bad. It's change.
And we're trying to get somewhere, trying to produce things
It's
and
always
reach our
about,
goals.
right, right, right. When I was a kid, General Electric was a sponsor on television, and it would say, progress is our most important product, getting somewhere. What if slowing down enough to actually hear what another person says will pull you into your experience of living rather than your thoughts about whether you agree or disagree? See, this is all about rehabilitating your ability to experience living rather than think about whether you like it or don't like it, but actually be there. In the early days of my searching for enlightenment or self-realization, uh, there was something they called a peak experience when you were really in the experience of that moment. Oh, a tree, or a flower or a person. It was all consuming because you were there for it. We have been trained to be sophisticated and cool, not be excited by the simple things in life, like a breath of air.
I want to take a slight turn, but not a real turn.
Take a slight turn.
First, shout out to all of those people who attend Living Made Easy seminars. Those are the 2-hour seminars we offer, often on Monday evenings, Tuesday evenings in the European time zone. and Saturday mornings. We also do the longer weekend
Weekends.
virtual seminars or in-person seminars. But in particular, the folks who come to practice the skill set of listening, fully engaging, occupying themselves with whatever someone is talking about, and practice that skill set, strengthen the muscle of being here. So shout out to all of you. And in particular, a shout out to Teresa, who came to a recent Monday version of Living Made Easy, talking about how her experience of herself, her life in general, and doing chores or tasks while speaking to customer service individuals totally shifted when she started listening rather than trying to get it over with or trying to get to her point or trying to get on to what she was hoping to accomplish whilst speaking with customer service. She discovered that that they were people and that full human beings that she was in the midst of interacting with, and that as she listened to them, things became smoother. It was satisfying rather than something to get over with, to get on with her day. And you may think that's a little thing. It is a little thing, except for our lives are made up of lots of little things. And I have a feeling that overall, most of us wish to be kind. And when you get irritated or you treat a customer service person as less because they're doing their job and you're aggravated or you need an answer, somehow it seems to go against our own personal morality. And then we make ourselves pay.
I can see that.
How about we take our
Our
first
first guest?
lovely guest, shall we?
Alfie.
No, we have
not
Uli first.
Uli.
We get two today.
Uh-huh.
Hi,
Hi,
Uli.
Uli.
Hello.
Where are you zooming in from?
I'm zooming in from Germany, from outside of Cologne, very close to Cologne.
Welcome.
Nice to see you guys.
With us.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Thank you.
I have a question around listening,
Mhm.
and that is when I'm upset or I'm not feeling well in myself, I can get like defended and withdrawn, and then to be listening almost seems absurd because listening, as I understand it, requires like reaching out, like being open. I always see like Dumbo, the flying elephant with big ears. And that seems like one seems to be the opposite of each other. And at the same time, I know that when I listen, it relieves me from myself. I can get out of my thoughts and get engaged. So somehow it seems like a circle to myself.
Well, I'm not quite sure that I understand.
Well,
Maybe I
what you're-
missed something.
Well, first of all, let's talk about the three principles of instantaneous transformation. Because if I'm hearing you right or correctly, you're saying that when you're upset, listening goes out the window, that you don't know how to access listening.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's what I'm saying, yes.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So the first thing is when you're upset, chances are you don't want to be, you don't like it, you don't want it, or you're resisting something. So if it's your husband that you're upset with or one of your kids, listening to them is hard because you're being right about something they did or didn't do. So it makes it almost impossible to hear them. Does that make it?
Yes, that's accurate.
So if we're talking about listening as a full-time occupation, you are preoccupied with that which you are upsetting yourself with, what you're being right about.
Mhm.
So,
Well, what if you're just upset? See, not because of the circumstances, but because upset is on tap in all of us.
Hmm.
As soon as something goes contrary to how we prefer things to be, one of the first things that shows up is an upset.
Yes.
If you have an intention that gets somehow thwarted or blocked, or you don't deliver a communication to someone and then you're stuck with it.
Yes.
I'd be willing to bet there are plenty of times, for instance, your daughter will do action A, whatever that may be, and you find it upsetting. And other times she could do the same action and it's like, huh, look, she did that. But if you're pre-upset,
Everything's upsetting.
everything's upsetting.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's, I know in your question, Uli, it's like almost we have to take a few steps back. And it's really lovely that we're doing this before our magical relationships course, which is this weekend. And I encourage anybody listening, if you're listening in real time, to join us for that. Because what you're talking about is when you're upset or being hard on you, it 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 blocks your ability to listen.
Hmm.
And the thing is, if we go back one further step, you're being hard on you for being hard on you.
That sounds me, yes.
Yes, like you get upset with yourself for getting upset and for not listening, and
Well,
it becomes a vicious cycle.
what
Yeah.
if you only be exactly as you are? You know, that's the second principle of instantaneous transformation. You know, you can only be exactly as you are in the current moment. So if we happen to drop into the current moment and it's an upset moment for you, then you could only be upset in that moment. So being upset with yourself for being upset doesn't allow it to complete itself. Noticing that you're upset is enough for it to complete itself if you just notice it. But if you notice it and don't like it, you keep it in place.
However, if you don't like it, you don't like it. So if you notice that you don't like it, then that starts to unravel it. You have to start with where you are, Uli.
See, the thing is this, in each moment, Uli, we can only be exactly where we are, exactly as we are. So if our way of being is in that moment upset, that's the only way it could be. So getting upset with yourself for being upset does not have the upset complete itself. Noticing it, allowing yourself to feel what you're feeling, allows the upset to complete itself. But here's the tricky part, you can't notice it to get it to complete itself.
Hmm.
Darn it.
See, because once you manipulate it to get what you think you want, you're stuck again.
Now, I know our listeners can't see your face. I can see it today because we are doing this via Zoom with the visuals on for us. And I can see you're stirred up about something. And, it reminds me a bit sometimes at Living Made Easy, somebody will come and you can tell that they're sick, like they're people recovering from COVID who've come, or they have a cold, or they're getting better from surgery, and they'll be with us and you can see it in their face. And what's interesting is as they get engaged and listen, they forget about their illness. And it's so often that before they know it, they're feeling so much better. It doesn't mean that they're fully recovered from COVID, for instance, but their well-being
I
takes a
have an
jump.
analogy.
Hmm.
If we were to build a fire, if we stop feeding it wood, what happens?
It goes off. It
It,
extinguishes.
Yeah, it burns itself out. Well, it's the same thing with upsets. If you don't resist them, they complete themselves. Anything you allow to be exactly as it is, including an upset, completes itself if you let it be exactly as it is. But if you resist it, you keep feeding fuel to the fire.
I like that.
Yeah, because it's a visual that you can get. It's not difficult to understand that if you stop adding fuel, eventually that fire will go out.
I
I'm
see.
pretty sure it was our first book, Working on Yourself Doesn't Work, Uli, where we talked about um, uh, an experiment that was done at a university where they looked at upsets, where,
Hmm.
where they had a person get upset and find an upsetting situation and then cathart over it, like yell about it, and try to get rid of the burden of the upset and express it and shout. And then they had another group of people where they had the person be upset and then distract themselves, like get fully involved in something. And then they gave them another test later in the day to do something on a computer that was purposefully set up to not work properly, to see how they
Would
respond.
respond.
And the people who practiced yelling and catharting were far more likely to get upset than the people who had just distracted themselves and moved on to something else over upsetting situations. And I have a feeling when you get upset, you try to figure out why you're upset and you work
Well,
on the
I'm
upset.
sure you try to figure out why you're upset. I'm sure you try to find something to blame for the causality for causing your upset.
Yes. Yes, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, you're normal, and we all have been trained to look for what caused it. What caused you to be upset, baby? No.
What's wrong? How come you're upset?
Yeah, I
So
see.
learn to blame circumstance for our upset rather than realize as human beings, when the telephone rings, we get upset.
Mhm.
Have you noticed that?
Oh, yes.
I mean, it may be wonderful news coming via that telephone, but it doesn't matter. The first response to something new, to change of any kind, is upset.
Mm.
Now, maybe that upset gets your system revved so that you can flight or fight, survive. It's a survival mechanism. The whole upsetting event or upsets themselves are part of a survival mechanism
Mhm.
so that you can deal with the situation. But you deal with situations much better when you're not upset.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Thank
Interesting.
you.
As we've been going along, I'm watching you be able to listen more easily.
Mhm.
And when you do, the thing that you
Agitated you, or you felt agitated over.
or by uh, seems to lose its power over you. See, it would be really crazy, wouldn't it, if there's nothing to do, period.
I was waiting for you to say more.
I know. See, what if there's nothing to do? If you just allow yourself to feel what you're feeling without blaming it on something, it's over. It
Hmm.
happens in an instant. Now, of course, you can re-engage in the upsetting circumstance because it's normal. People do it all the time. It's acceptable to get upset. Not terribly upset, though. You're only supposed to get a little upset. You don't want to.
Justifiably
Yes.
upset.
Yes.
Yeah. Just
Right?
because life is unfair.
There you go.
Exactly. And life is unfair. But so what? You can't change the way it shows up.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
It
You're
starts
very-
by being kind to yourself.
Yeah, let's back up to that again.
See,
It's so easy to forget to be
you know,
kind to
look,
oneself.
when something goes wrong in your experience, Uli, you say Uli to yourself in a very unkind way,
Yes, I do.
rather than just notice it.
But see, that's part of the human condition. That's what happens to people.
We've
So
been
that
trained to do that.
that you do that is not like, oh, did you hear the news? Uli speaks for herself badly. That's what people do. And when you notice you're doing that, it's like, oh wow, look at that.
And if you notice you're doing it and you don't beat on yourself for having done it, it's over. But if you notice it and complain to yourself that you shouldn't do that,
Here I am again.
you keep it in place.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks for
you're
being
so
with us
welcome.
today. Really a treat.
See you.
Okay, here we go. It's time for our listener feedback spotlight, where we hear from one of our listeners about how transformation has impacted her life or his life.
If you want to learn more about our seminars, any of the upcoming virtual courses, visit transformationmadeeasy.com.
That is transformation made easy, easy.com.
I love it.
Thank you.
Hi, this is James from Surrey in the UK. I love transformation because it helps me notice things around me that I hadn't previously noticed. For instance, the other day I was in my garden and I noticed some tweeting coming out of the apple tree there. And when I looked inside a hole in the apple tree, there was a nest of birds who had just hatched. And it makes me realize that my life, as it is profoundly rich and that I'm very wealthy.
Do you want to have well-being with consistency? Connect with people all over the world from the comfort of your own home at Aaron & Shire's lively interactive Living Made Easy virtual seminars. Join any of their 2-hour online events or take a deep dive into the magic of being you at a virtual weekend seminar. Come on, let's connect. Find out more and register at transformationmadeeasy.com.
We invite you to join us for one of our Living Made Easy seminars, or many, several. Come once, come as often as you like. The next ones we have coming are Monday, the 10th, or Saturday, June 15th. If you're listening to this in the archive, you just go to Living Made Easy on our website, transformationmadeeasy.com, and you can see what the upcoming events are. What we have this weekend is magical relationships. It's
a virtual weekend. That would be June 8th and 9th.
And our next in-person seminar is
Creativity and Intuition. It's in New Jersey, August 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. That's a Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday.
Last time we did, we're doing this at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center. It's not that far away from our home. Last time, some of the people from New York City actually rented like Airbnb, like a couple blocks away, and made it a whole vacation weekend. So maybe we'll do that too.
Oh, that's an idea.
You're welcome. If you want to know
I
more,
like that idea.
Isn't that fun?
Oh, yeah.
We
Well, we
also,
might have to get a babysitter.
that's all right. We'll get a babysitter for our cat. We have Costa Rica in January 2025. You are invited. You can come for 1 week or two. The prerequisite is attending a weekend seminar with us sometime in this calendar year.
That's just so we can find out if we play well together.
That's right. All right. You can find out and read more and register for any of our courses.
At transformationmadeeasy.com.
All right, let's take our next guest.
Yes, this is Elfie.
Welcome to being here. Tell people where you're zooming in from, Elfie. Oops, you're muted, sweetheart. There we go. She's unmuting. There you
Yes, I am I'm zooming in from Hamburg in Germany.
go. Yeah,
Well,
welcome.
welcome.
Was worth waiting for.
Yes.
Yes. What can we do for you, Lovey?
It's so nice to see you, and some ideas about what you said to the last guest were in my head, and a special one from yesterday about listening. I noticed I couldn't listen to Robert. He told me something, and there was such a big resistance in me, and I tried to convince him from another point of view than his, and I never felt it so strong, this resistance against opinion of someone else.
So what was he telling you? How beautiful you are?
He was telling me about some ideas how to make more space at home and to put things away, and everything in me was resisting it. And
Well,
he
let me
didn't
ask
say,
you a question.
please.
Was the things he was talking about things that were geared to fix you or change you?
No, I don't think so. I think it was an idea for himself, but not for me. But it felt like it was an idea for me.
I didn't quite understand that. I'm listening.
He was only telling me about these ideas from a person he had read about.
A better way to be.
Yes.
Well, then that's what I was talking with you about. You don't like being told what to do.
That's so true.
And you don't want someone fixing you. I'm quite fine already. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So, like I was right. I love being right, I'm only right all the time. But like I could tell he was giving you things to improve you.
And I'll tell you,
And
it wasn't
you don't
that
need improving.
it wasn't so much that he was trying to improve you primarily. It's so easy when you read a book that gives you a new system for, say, how to organize your home.
Mhm.
Not just take an idea of how to organize your home, but to internalize the idea that you're doing it wrong. And if you did it that way, you'd be a better you. And if he had that idea about himself, then chances are when he was relating it to you, you felt the spill off, like as if he was saying to you, you would be better once you completed these things.
That sounds real for me.
Yes. And he's totally capable of trying to fix and change and make himself better and improve. And
well, the only problem with that is if he's going to try to change and fix himself to make himself better, you're the next victim in line.
That fixer-upper project.
Because he will treat you like he treats himself. Like there's something broken or deficient and needs to be repaired or replaced.
Yes, and there was something more. He was in the Zoom meeting with you before that.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a thought in me, oh, he hasn't he got it? That he has not to work on himself?
I'm not.
So you were
Yes,
not hearing what he had to say. You were judging him
yes,
rather than hearing what he had to say. For
yes,
sure.
See,
yes,
listening involves setting down your own system of interpreting life to hear another person's system of interpreting life. It's not about agreeing with or disagreeing. It's about just hearing what they say. But we're machines, Elfie. We really are. And if
yes,
somebody says something that disagrees with our programming, we take exception. And we
Well,
want to be right.
yes,
yeah, yeah,
he was on a Zoom seminar with us. And the thing that I noticed most about him was this bubbling enthusiasm about his life. And somehow he could have been trying to change himself or trying to fix you. But it's also possible that you mistook enthusiasm for possibility as a statement that you were doing your life wrong.
yeah,
The other thing is,
maybe.
I'm never fond of somebody telling me how I could do things differently.
Well, there is a possibility that somebody could tell you how to do things differently that would be better for you. But that's only if the person is already very successful at being well in themselves.
Yeah.
But if they're not well in themselves with consistency, you don't want to go to them for advice on how to be well.
Yeah.
I don't like to tell people how to go about their lives because I don't have the right. It's not my job. My job is not to tell people that they're doing their life right or wrong. My job, I don't even know what it is. Maybe it's just to listen to them. So they feel.
Yes, I like it very much but I like it very much to listen to you.
Well, I'm not trying to change you or fix you.
Yeah.
But I'm not in a relationship with you either.
That's true.
Now, if I were, I wouldn't try to change or fix you either. But I've learned that over a lifetime of doing what didn't work, which was trying to tell people a better way they should be.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't be different than you are. You might as well enjoy being you. And then who knows? You may look differently, but not because you tell yourself you need to be different.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
You may just discover that being appropriate to the circumstances happens when you're there and look and see what needs to be done, rather than somebody telling you how you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
I don't know what about Robert's communication you found uncomfortable, but I do know it went into a category of not fully listening and into judging him, because if what you say is true and you thought to yourself, doesn't he have it yet? You just came from a seminar. Somehow you weren't fully being there with him. You were defensive, which is what he's talking about, and judgmental. Now, that is not a problem.
That's not bad. The rest of the world is judgmental and defensive. So you fit in with normal people, fine.
The other thing is, I'm not even sure he even noticed it. He might have. You guys, it might have escalated into a disagreement, but there's something about seeing how you were without being hard on yourself for how that happened, how you were.
Yeah. And there's something I want to figure out why I was so resistant.
Well, do you think figuring out will keep it from happening again?
No. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. We recently did a session with a client who's really upset. And then afterwards, she sent us a text talking about how great her life was and how she has this really long list to check when she gets upset, but she never remembers until after she's out of the upset, and then she checks the list and everything on the list was happening. It was a sign of her upset. She said, maybe I should check the list more often. And we wrote back to her, maybe you should just get rid of the list. Forget it.
Yeah.
I think we want to figure it out rather than recognize, oh, I know this feeling. This is the, oh, I'm upset feeling.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah. Yeah. So glad to speak with you about this.
Yeah. Lovely having you with us
Look,
today.
it has to do with being kind to yourself. If you're being kind to yourself, you'll be kind to Robert.
Yeah.
If you're not being kind to yourself, you won't be kind to anybody.
Yeah.
There's something called compassion, where you have the space for a person to be the way they are and the way they're not. We have
Yes.
expectations, like you have expectations for how Robert should be, how you want him to be. But he won't show up that way all the time. He'll show up the way he's showing up in that particular moment.
Well, that's pretty obvious. We have preferences for how each of us have preferences for how we should be.
Yes. I wanted to say that too. Yes.
And we don't show up the way we would prefer all the
Right.
time.
That's so true.
Myself irritated. I think, why should I be irritated? I shouldn't be irritated. And then I
Yeah.
get irritated with myself for being irritated. That doesn't do any good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So nice.
It really is a willingness to hit the restart button and just go from there rather than analyze and go backward and figure it out. You can just drop it and move on. Yeah. So
I agree.
So thank you very much.
thank
Thank you very much. It's such a pleasure to hang out with you.
The same for me.
You can share this podcast with your friends. You can subscribe. I don't know if you're subscribed, Elfie, but I bet you there are a lot of people listening who are not. It comes to you in your inbox every week that way. And you can also, if you haven't already, subscribe to our newsletter. We have great blogs, videos, information that comes. And you can, again, find out all our courses and our newsletter sign up link at transformationmadeeasy.com. Next week's episode, can you handle
Nixon?
That's Niksen, which is the Dutch term for doing nothing. Ooh, we're going to play with that.
Yes.
We'll be back next week.
So come on back
And don't miss
being